timeless and oft repeated stories that is found inside the Quran is the story of Musa alayhi salam in bits and pieces. And the story of Musa alayhi salam in general, the entirety of the story, in fact there is no juz of the Holy Quran in which some element or aspect of the story of Musa alayhi salam is not touched upon. And there is one specific part of this story that has to do with the encounter between Musa alayhi salam and the magicians of Fir'aun. So this is, many of us, we may have heard this story before. I will go over it in summary. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks of this part of the story in more than one place inside the Quran, and there are some very profound lessons in just this one episode in the story of Musa alayhi salam for you and I, especially in the times that we are living in. So in Surah Taha, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He makes mention of this part of the story. Musa alayhi salam, he arrives in Misr, in Egypt, with two objectives. One is to give da'wah to Fir'aun, and the second is to free his people from the servitude of Fir'aun. And in this he is accompanied by his brother Harun, who is also a prophet of Allah alayhi salam. And they go and they present themselves in front of Fir'aun, and this is where the story begins. That the first accusation that is made against Musa alayhi salam is that you are nothing but a magician. And this was what Fir'aun was intent on spreading around as well, that he is a learned magician, he is good at his craft, he is nothing more, he is not a prophet of Allah. And in order to prove this, Fir'aun proposed that, why do you not have a sort of match or a duel between yourself and our magicians? And sorcery was all the rage in Egypt in the time of Musa alayhi salam. So Musa alayhi salam, this proposal is put in front of Musa alayhi salam, and not only did Musa alayhi salam agree to this, he chose the time. He chose the time for this, and he said, "Maw'idukum yawmuz zinah wa an yuhshara an-nasu duha." Here comes the first lesson: is that in the ma'raka, or in the war between haqq and batil, there is no turning back. There is no retreating. You must meet this face on. So in the challenge that was presented in front of Musa alayhi salam, he not only accepted, he chose the time. He said that we will do this on the day of Eid, their Eid. So not this Eid, but the Eid of the people of Egypt. We will do this on that day, and we will do this in the mid-morning. So he is setting the stage for this duel that is going to take place. And according to the various mufassirin, this was not one or two magicians. So this was at least 70 individuals that came and responded to the call of Fir'aun, and up to 80,000. So this is what we find in the books of tafsir. 80,000 individuals. Imagine this: on one side there are two prophets of Allah, and on the other side there are 80,000 magicians. 80,000 magicians. And as always, he is a Nabi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So what does he begin with? He begins by giving nasiha. These 80,000 individuals, any opportunity to spread the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether it be to friend or foe, this is an opportunity that we take, and we learn this from Musa alayhi salam. So he begins, although he is here for some sort of a match, and some sort of a duel, and some sort of a tournament, but he begins by giving da'wah. He says, وَيْلَكُمْ لَا تَفْتَرُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ كَذِبًا فَيُسْحِتَكُمْ بِعَذَابٍ وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ اِفْتَرَى. Musa alayhi salam warned the magicians, "Woe to you, do not fabricate lies against Allah, or He will wipe you out with a torment. Whoever fabricates lies is bound to fail." And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hints in the Quran, فَتَنَازَعُوا أَمْرَهُمْ بَيْنَهُمْ وَأَسَرُّوا النَّجْوَى, that this had an effect, the sincerity of this nasiha had an effect on these magicians, and they began to differ amongst themselves. And this is also a telltale sign of the people of batil, is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as He says elsewhere in the Quran, تَحْسَبُهُمْ جَمِيعًا وَقُلُوبُهُمْ شَتَّى, that you think that they are a united front, where their hearts amongst themselves, they can never be united. So there is never been and never will be a united front of batil, of falsehood against haqq, although it may seem that way. So this, finally, the magicians, long story short, they say to Musa alayhi salam, okay, we are here to do what we are here to do. Do you want to go first or should we go first? إِمَّا أَن تُلْقِيَ وَإِمَّا أَن نَكُونَ نَحْنُ الْمُلْقِينَ. That you go first or we go first, you choose. So the choice of Musa alayhi salam was what? You go first. Right? You go first. And there is a lesson in this as well. We will cover this at the end, inshallah. But Musa alayhi salam said, Bal alqu, that you go first. Show us what you have and then we will respond to this. And فَأَلْقَوْا حِبَالَهُمْ وَعِصِيَّهُمْ يُخَيَّلُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ سِحْرِهِمْ أَنَّهَا تَسْعَى, that they threw their sticks and their rope in the field in front of them, and they made it appear as these things are moving on their own. And the Mufassirin, they write that, this was a sleight of hand, this was a trick they played on people. They employed the use of mercury and other things that would make these things seem like they are moving, when in effect they were actually not moving. So Musa alayhi salam, naturally he is also a human being, he began to become fearful of this. And think of this is not one thing. That imagine that, 80,000 pieces of rope and stick, and these are moving in front of you, and it appears like they are snakes and serpents. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He consoles Musa alayhi salam, قُلْنَا لَا تَخَفْ إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْأَعْلَى, that do not fear, it is certainly you who will prevail. وَأَلْقِ مَا فِي يَمِينِكَ تَلْقَفْ مَا صَنَعُوا إِنَّمَا صَنَعُوا كَيْدُ سَاحِرٍ وَلَا يُفْلِحُ السَّاحِرُ حَيْثُ أَتَى. That's put forth what you have in your hand, and by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this will become a massive serpent that will consume everything that they have put into the field. And this is what happened. Musa alayhi salam, through the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he put forth his staff, and this became a serpent, and it consumed the sticks and the ropes that these magicians had put in. And what happens next? What happened next, and what always happens, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-A'raf. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَوَقَعَ الْحَقُّ وَبَطَلَ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ فَغُلِبُوا هُنَالِكَ وَانْقَلَبُوا صَاغِرِينَ وَأُلْقِيَ السَّحَرَةُ سَاجِدِينَ قَالُوا آمَنَّا بِرَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ رَبِّ مُوسَى وَهَارُونَ. فَوَقَعَ الْحَقُّ, the truth prevailed. وَبَطَلَ مَا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ, and their illusions they failed. فَغُلِبُوا هُنَالِكَ وَانْقَلَبُوا صَاغِرِينَ, and the Pharaoh and his people were defeated right there, and they were put to shame. وَأُلْقِيَ السَّحَرَةُ سَاجِدِينَ. This is the most remarkable part of this story, that upon seeing this, the magicians in their entirety, the entire group, 80,000, according to some of the Mufassirin, they were 80,000 in number. All of them, they prostrated, they repented, and they said, we believe in the Lord of Musa and Harun. So this, and later they were persecuted, they were executed, and they remained steadfast. So this is the gist of the story. Now, what does this story have to do with? I promised you at the beginning, this story has many profound lessons for what you and I currently go through in the type of society that we live in. This is a constant battle between falsehood and truth. So you can think of your entire life as a battle between falsehood and truth. And our entire community, our very existence is a battle between falsehood and truth. And this is not a day or a match. This is a lifetime. You are spending the entirety of your lifetime in that battlefield. And there are lessons in this story. Number one is, when I translated sihr as magic or sorcery. So while this is true, this is an accurate translation. However, if you look at the books of, the linguistics of the Quran, and what sihr means, right? Sihr means إخراج الباطل في في صورة الحق. You want to pay attention to this. إخراج الباطل في صورة الحق. Sihr not only refers to, magic, it means presenting falsehood in the disguise or in the guise of truth. This is sihr. Presenting falsehood in the guise of truth. This is the literal definition of sihr. So all around you in society, this is precisely what is happening. Precisely what is being taught to children even, and precisely what people are made to believe, and many people do believe, that falsehood, things that 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago nobody even questioned, but today they are presented as if they are fact. So falsehood is presented in the guise of truth, and when you repeat it often enough, then enough people believe in this, right? Enough people believe in this for the sihr to take effect. So there comes a tipping point. And this is where, quote unquote, the magic happens. When enough people believe in falsehood, then it becomes a problem. If one guy or two guys or a small group of people believe in something, it's a conspiracy theory. When the entire society seems to believe in something, then this becomes sihr. This is إخراج الباطل في صورة الحق. So the lessons inside this story, inside this episode, number one, tests, trials, tribulations, they are part of the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They have always happened, they will always continue to happen, and people will be tested according to their level of iman. يُبْتَلَ الرَّجُلُ عَلَى حَسْبِ دِينِهِ. The stronger your iman, the greater your test. And the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that an individual will continue to be tested until he walks this earth free from khati'ah, free from any sins or any deficiencies. So the fact that you are being tested by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are being tested by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is an indication that insha'Allah, iman still resides in our hearts and in our chests. Lesson number one. Lesson number two, that no matter how uncomfortable you become in this world, the discomfort of this world will always pale in comparison to the punishment of the akhirah. In the dialogue between Fir'aun and the magicians, once they prostrated and once they believed, then he threatened them that you better not do this, otherwise we will execute you. And what did they say? لن نؤثرك على ما جاءنا من الحق والذي فطرنا فاقض ما أنت قاض إنما تقضي هذه الحياة الدنيا. That you do what you want. We have seen the light, we have seen the truth, we believe in the Lord of Musa and Harun, and you do whatever you want. Whatever you do, you can only do in this world. We know what awaits us in the akhirah. And similarly, you and I, that on account of our beliefs, there may be times in this world where we are made to feel uncomfortable, where we may lose certain opportunities, but that is always going to pale in comparison to the punishment of the akhirah if we were to give in. This is lesson number two. Lesson number three, my brothers and sisters, what did Fir'aun do immediately when Musa alayhi salam, he arrived in Egypt? The first thing that he did is he began to spread misinformation or propaganda against him. That, this guy, the one who just arrived, he's a magician. Right? This is, just as Allah has sunan, this is the sunnah of the people of falsehood, the people of batil. That they constantly employ this misrepresentation of facts and the spreading of propaganda against the people of haqq. This is most evident in the story of Musa alayhi salam. That, when nothing else works, just spread false accusations against someone. With the hopes that if not everyone, at least some people you will be able to convince that these people are dangerous. These people, you want to stay away from them. And do we not see this also in society today? That when everything else fails, what strategy is employed against the people of Iman? False information. That, these guys, no, you don't want to go near them. These are people who believe like this. These are people who do this. These are people, who treat their women like this. These are people who, this is the type of information that is spread. And lesson number 4. These magicians, they believed for a very short period of time. right? So literally they accepted Islam, and a short while later they were executed, right? Very short period of time. Yet it is remarkable how such a large group of individuals is blessed with such a tremendous amount of patience. What patience is greater than giving your life for a cause? So they accept Islam, and then they get shahada, and there is a very short period of time in between, and yet the sabr, the patience displayed is remarkable. So the lesson here for us is your patience and the ability to give patience and grant patience to somebody, this belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. It has nothing to do with you and me. That Allah alone gives patience. This is why it doesn't matter if the trial, the tribulation, the test that you are facing is small or large. The only one that can give you the patience to endure this test is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether it's a test in your iman, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from such tests. Whether it's a test in your finances, in your personal circumstances, in your relationships, the patience to endure is only going to come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why we learn a dua in the Quran. We learn a dua, and the dua is رَبَّنَا أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا وَثَبِّتْ أَقْدَامَنَا رَبَّنَا أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا وَتَوَفَّنَا مُسْلِمِينَ. This is shower us with patience. أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا. Shower us with patience, with perseverance, and enable us to die submitting to you. That whatever trial comes along the way, enable us to endure this with patience. This is a dua that all of us should make, because nobody's life is free from trial. Everybody has some sort of test, some sort of trial. So رَبَّنَا أَفْرِغْ عَلَيْنَا صَبْرًا وَتَوَفَّنَا مُسْلِمِينَ. And finally, my brothers and sisters, the last thing before we end here is when he was asked that who is going to present first, right? That do you want us to go first or do you want to go first? If it was me and you, what would we say? We would probably say that, let's get it over with, let's go first, right? But no, he says you go first. And this is in usul, right? This is in usul, that when you are confronted with falsehood, you allow falsehood to lay out all of its claims, and then you systematically dismantle this. This is why Musa alayhi salam let them go first. That show us what you have, and we are confident that whatever you present, we have the answer to. There is nothing that you can say, that you can present, that we do not have the answer to. Maybe me as an individual, I don't, but the deen definitely does. Right? It's not necessary that every individual is able to answer every doubt, but the deen definitely does. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says inside the Quran, بَلْ نَقْذِفُ بِالْحَقِّ عَلَى الْبَاطِلِ فَيَدْمَغُهُ فَإِذَا هُوَ زَاهِقٌ. That we will throw the truth upon falsehood, and it will dismantle it, it will destroy it. So in order for the truth to be thrown upon falsehood, the falsehood has to go first. So, فَلْيَتَفَضَّلْ مَشْكُورًا. You bring your arguments and we will destroy them. Right? So in the battle between truth and falsehood, they go first. You always remember this. They go first and then we answer. They go first and then we answer. And we always have the answer. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to understand this. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable, just as Musa alayhi salam was blessed with victory and the magicians and of his time, there are magicians of our time as well. Not the same type of sorcery, but there are magicians of our time as well, who we are in constant combat with on a day-to-day basis. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you, me, and all of us victory over the magicians of our time as well. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.